Okay, so when we were in the last video, we saw how we could take an array and make it into a list, right? And the differences between them. So an array, we would create that array with a fixed length or size, and we could change the values of individual elements in that array based on their position, but we could not add any additional elements or remove it in such a way that it would change the size of the array. In a list, however, we can add elements to that list and it changes the size. Okay, we can also remove elements from a list. So for instance, if I did test scores dot remove, and then I need to say the index that I want to remove. So I'm going to remove index 0. Okay, now when I print this array, we'll see that the 100 has been removed, and now just 75 is in my list, in my array list. Okay, if instead of remove, I wanted to add the element, add a new test score, but I want it between the first and the second element. So instead of test scores dot add, which would put it onto the end, it would append it to the end of the list, I'm going to do the index that I want to add. Test scores dot add. I'm going to do the index where I want to put it. So index 1, I'm going to add an 87. Okay, so now when we run, we're going to see that 87 test score inserted between the 100 and the 75 in the list. So the size of the list changed to 3, and we put that 87 in between because we wanted it at index 1, which is after index 0. And now in an array, if I wanted to change the value of one of these elements in the array, I would say tests and then the index of the score that I wanted to change. So index 0 would be our first score, and I could change that to a 55, for instance. So this notation on line 7 would take element 0 in the array, which is 100, and replace that with a 55. If I want to replace a score, so say I wanted to replace this 100 in my array list, I would not use the dot add, I would use dot set. So what I would do is test scores dot set, and then the index where I want to change the value is 0, and I'm going to replace that with a 55. Okay, so now when we run and look at the contents of the list, we still have 3 elements. Okay, but now instead of a 100 for the first element, it's been changed using that dot set method to a 55. Okay, in an array, when I wanted to access one of these values in the array, I would use the name of the array and then open close brackets with the index of the position I was trying to access. Okay, when I want to access a value in a list, instead I'm going to use the .get method. So if I did a systemout.println test scores.get, and I wanted to get the last element in my list, right, I could look for just that index 3, or I could use my length method. So I could say get and then test scores dot size, open close parentheses, -1. Okay, So let's go ahead and run. Here is my list, 55, 87, 75. There are 3 elements, that's the size, and then there's my 75, which is the last element in the array list. And I obtain that using the get scores.size minus 1, right? The length minus 1 is element 0, 1, 2. So 3 minus 1 is 2. That's where the 75 comes from. And we use the .get method in order to retrieve that last element from our list.